history to determine our fate. I think it's remarkable because what happens with senior drivers is that history does matter. If you haven't run well at a track, you go into that weekend with a deficit. If not in terms of speed, but in terms of your mental approach. That doesn't exist with Chase Elliott right now.
And we show his teammate, the 7 of Regan Smith, running in the 5 car. Hasn't had a spectacular night, Rick, but he's up in the top 5 now.
Yeah, it was really yesterday's second practice where they had to work on it. Didn't start off so well, but finally at the end of that second practice, he felt like the car was finally coming back to where they wanted it to go. But that last stop, they put on 4 tires. They've also they made an air pressure adjustment. They wanted to free things up just a little bit. He was able to get out at one point past the 22 car on pit road. Did a great job there, but they weren't able to take advantage of it. And as a result, he's moved back just a little bit. But still, not a bad run considering where they thought they were yesterday afternoon.
And for Regan Smith, the 2 highest mountains to climb, Chicagoland last week, a top 10. Kentucky Speedway tonight, a top 5. Those are the kind of runs he needs to get back in this championship run. Yeah, that's Eastern on ESPN2. And then the finals are tomorrow, 8:30 p.m. Eastern on ESPN2. The NASCAR Sprint Cup Series is in New Hampshire. It's the Sylvania 300 at the New Hampshire Motor Speedway. That's tomorrow, 1 p.m. Eastern on ESPN. And then the Nationwide Series at 5 Bank Miles Cement, Concrete, whatever you want to call it, Dover. Great racetrack and a fantastic race next week, Saturday, 3:30 Eastern on ESPN. Can't wait for my favorite time at Dover of the year, standing down by turn 1, watching dive. So that's 2 stories down into turn 1. It's amazing.
I know it sounds crazy, but as a driver, I just love it.
Well, you guys are kind of built that way.
Yeah.
Like Ty Dillon is loving this.
It's unusual. Yeah.
Ty out front, a 2.5-second lead right now over his teammate Brian Scott. And really putting it to him tonight here at Kentucky Speedway.
Remember walking into the garage one time, Ray Evernham said to me when I was at Hendrick Motorsports, "You made up your mind?" I said, "What do you mean?" He said, "You made up your mind. You're going to win this thing?" And went on and won the Winston Open that night. This is what I see and what I heard from Ty Dillon today. He made up his mind. You know, and that exists with drivers. Some drivers have the capacity to do it every single week, and I'm fascinated with that. And there are others, like myself, that didn't have that. You had great racetracks, and then you had tracks you struggled at. Ty Dillon is on the mark here tonight. And I know, Vince, you got more on this?
Yeah, I think it's interesting, Ricky, as you talk about that, the confidence that this team had coming into the weekend. Ty won the truck race here last year. Danny Stockman, the crew chief, has had great success here. They roll off the track. The car is good. It's fast. It's got a good balance. It just seemed like from the word go, they came in here knowing they were going to have a good weekend, and nothing has stepped out of line, and they've hardly touched the car at all tonight, and he is bad fast and going about 90%. He is taking it easy and saving that equipment.
It's impressive. It is, and you can sort of hear it in the tone when we talk to him pre-race. The greatest who ever strapped into a race car have the ability to do it week in and week out. You know, they enter into a level of focus and concentration that others, you know, have it selectively, but there's no doubt about it. Ty Dillon has it tonight.
That's the 3. The double 3, his young teammate, Cale Conley, making his 9th Nationwide Series start tonight. Conley being challenged now by Elliott Sadler for the 8th position.
Extreme opposite ends of the scale here. Elliott Sadler's been in the business a lifetime. Cale Conley is making his mark. And one of the things I appreciate as a young driver is the ability to be able to race with a driver as good as Elliott. This is where you learn a lot of really good tools and a lot of good trades.
Jim Noble?
Well, that's exactly right, Ricky. We've heard all about Cale Conley from Nick Harrison and the other members of his 33 team. He actually went to Chicagoland last weekend, hung out with Paul Menard, kind of picked his brain, learned a lot. In fact, earlier today, Paul Menard sent Cale Conley a text. Said, "Nice job," after he qualified 4th. Right now, though, that 33 car is really free. The track is changing, like you guys talked about. Cale Conley still hanging on to a nice top 10 run.
Ricky, what's Cale experiencing? We'll assume it's free into the corner, and that's something that they've complained about tonight. Oh, really close right there. What's a driver experience going free into the corner?
Well, there are different degrees of free. When you have a driver on your bumper, it's extremely free.
Mechanically free from the other guy.
It really is the most challenging aspect of being a driver, particularly when you're in traffic, right? Because you've got no room for error. Anytime you get loose, when the back breaks loose, you have to turn into it. And if a car's to your outside, you've got no operating room. Now, in this situation, you see him in the second lane. That's not by mistake, because he has from there to the wall to adjust or recover. But that's something that's acquired over time, where you learn to use the racetrack to your advantage. And you can listen to drivers on the radio to understand how loose they are. If they're composed, they're okay. When it sounds like they're singing soprano, you better get in and get the car adjusted.
Sam Hornish creeping into the picture right now in that 54 in the 10th position, trying to work his way back toward the front. So while Sadler works on Conley for the 8th position, Ty Dillon continues to lead this field. Ryan Scott is 2.2 seconds back. Can he mount a challenge to his teammate? About to show you one hell of a night. Bears versus Jets, Monday, 8:15 p.m. Eastern on ESPN. Game is also available live on Watch ESPN. No other night. It's Monday night. So you see the picture, the 99 of James Busher. He is on the tail end of the lead lap. Chase Pistone is one lap down already in the 31 car. Here comes leader Ty Dillon, who's just been mowing him down.
Been mowing him down, but he's been working for it when he gets into lap traffic. Lap cars are using a lot of racetrack, and that's an indication that they're really uncomfortable on corner entry.
They're working hard.
They're really working hard. You see the red light of James Butcher's car on corner entry there. So if you're Ty Dillon, you want to make the pass to the low side. And the reason why is because you're in complete control here. You get to the outside, you're vulnerable.
You don't want to be collected by Busher collecting his race car.
Yeah, you can. As you're catching cars, you're evaluating what they're struggling with. There's a reason they're going down a lap, and then you sort of have to approach it with, where am I safest? Where am I most protected? It's just part of the responsibility of having a 2-second lead.
With that pass, there are now 17 cars on the lead lap. The next one to go lap down, having a nice run, the 80 car of Ross Chastain, making just an infrequent start in the NASCAR Nationwide Series. So Ross will be the next victim if the three of Ty Dillon can get there. You see Ross crossing the start-finish line right there.
Yeah, alongside Jeffrey Earnhardt. Both these drivers are doing a great job, overachieving when you consider they're underfunded. And they've been on the lead lap with 3/4 of the way through the event.
Here they are racing not to be the next one. Chastain just getting around Jeffrey Earnhardt.
As great a job as Ty Dillon has done all night. Safe to assume that their car's driving a little bit better than the cars ahead of him. You got to give a nod to both those drivers, Chastain and Jeffrey Earnhardt.
So with 43 laps to go, cars were last on pit road on lap 117. We restarted on lap 121. So as you see, Cale Conley and Sam Hornish battling. Fairly soon, they're going to need to come down for their last pit stop.
Haven't had a green flag stop all night. It introduces some more challenges. Drivers having to transition from the racetrack to pit road. The majority of pit road speeding penalties are under green coming in to the pit lane. So that's in the back of the crew chief's mind and the driver's mind. Vince, you got anything on the 54?
Well, it's been a struggle throughout most of the night. Sam described it as feeling as though he's got a pogo stick under his left front, and he said it's so loose he can't turn it in. So having a lot of trouble with that front end of the race car tonight. Throughout the course of the night, he was back about 13th, so he's made up some spots. So with his hands full, he's still managing to claw to the front. Can he get all the way to the front? Well, he's got one more pit stop to help him do that.
Gotta love this shot here. Sam locked on, So as a driver, you look ahead. Okay, you look into the corner. Again, looking for your markers. You've run 160 laps at this point, so you know where you're strong and where you're weak, where you need to roll out of the gas, where you need to begin your turn into the corner. Instinctively, you know where to go back to the accelerator. Even though he's not in the top 5, he's strong enough that with an adjustment late, he can be there. And it goes back to that discussion earlier about compromise. The pogo stick effect is because they're coil binding that left front spring. There's speed in it, but zero comfort.
So Hertz continues in the 8th position now. He's made a couple of passes working around Blake Cook in the 44. Coming up on J.J. Yaley in the 28. Back up front, it is all Ty Dillon. Final round of pit stops coming up. Who can adjust and get closer to this 3-car with the laps winding down in Kentucky? Welcome back to Kentucky Speedway. This is the longest green flag stretch we've had tonight, and a final round of pit stops coming up.
Operator to come over here so we can talk about this fuel deal. So I'm going to leave some fuel out. Now we're going to tighten it up if we can, Andrew.
Ricky, what are they talking about?
Well, if they leave some fuel out, they're going to change the balance of the car front to rear in terms of weight. So more nose weight, as we call it, more front weight, typically tightens the car up.
So all of our cautions tonight, there have been 4 of them, have all been under, all of our cautions have been under caution. That's good. All of our pit stops have been under caution.
Getting late.
But we've got one more coming up, and it's likely to happen
8 more.
in 8 more laps.
Copy,
what are these
on 8
crews
more.
going to be experiencing, Ricky? Green flag stops at this point in the race.
Yeah, so the pressure ratchets to a new level, not just for the driver to hit his marks and pit road speed, to not miss a shift coming out of the pits, but for the pit crew. You know, if you've got a 12-second stop in you, right now's when you want it. If you want to gamble for 2 tires, you're going to have to stretch this thing out, I think. Several of them can go 177. I think you can go 177 on fumes, and then maybe 2 tires comes into play.
It's about 9 laps from now. We're probably not going to see that on the Ty Dillon radio we just overheard is correct. He's coming up on Austin Terrio in that 5-car, going a 3rd lap down and trouble in front of them. A big motor issue for Cody Ware, or at least a big puff of smoke.
It's really cool that he had the wherewithal to get down out of the racing groove. It's going to help us clean it up quicker.
So Justin Boston is going to get the free pass this time.
That kind of happened out of nowhere.
He'll be the 14th car on the lead lap.
1 second, I get back to the throttle.
And Cody described
Probably had your tongue hanging out all night.
how tough it's been to drive here, right?
You didn't hear that miss? I heard the miss all the way down the front stretch.
Yeah, it's always obvious after the fact.
That's right. Cody, a young driver, made his debut at just a little while back in the 23 car.
Can I just share with you that all those gauges inside the race car are along for the ride when you're in the middle of the corner? Crew chief comes on and says, did you check your gauges? I said, yeah, when I'm on the back stretch or the front stretch, but I'm a little busy.
Drivers tooling around here 180 miles an hour can't always be checking gauges for sure. So Ty Dillon, he's led 151 of the 170 laps we've completed so far here at the Kentucky Speedway, and the pits are open. Can his pit crew do it as he'll lead the entire field to pit road? See if these guys can score it for Ty.
I know you've heard me say this before, but I can't help it. I always thought this was a necessary evil from a driver's perspective, because you want to control what's going on the racetrack. You know, you got to get fuel, you got to get tires.
The leaders are on pit road. Rick?
Yeah, that number 22 car being driven by Michael McDowell. The plan is to make it a short, quick stop. Put in some Sunoco fuel, just about 5 seconds worth. Not sure yet if they're going to go for 4 tires. Meanwhile, you got Chase Elliott. The plan going in the door was to do 2 tires on this stop, but we'll see how that's going to go. Once again, their plans have been changing as they go. Short is the main job.
The track definitely freeing up. Brian Scott says the car is too loose. They're going to make a chassis adjustment, right side tires. The